question I have, or the topic that I want to discuss, is numerology and numbers. How do you read numbers? They are a way that our guides communicate with us. What it means as a symbol rather than the literal way that we measure things. I'm gonna go through numbers 1 through 9 because every number reduces to that. So if those numbers make up every other number in the universe. A lot of times numbers show up as confirmation. A lot of times you might be having a thought and your spirit guide might send you a specific code to confirm or to put into, kind of like lock in this information that you received so it becomes a part of you, so that it is integrated. So when you see repeating numbers, a lot of what they mean is also at the time that you see them. To be able to be meditative enough on your own thoughts to get clear on what is being confirmed at that time that you see those numbers. So it's not just like, oh, I saw 333, I don't know what it means because I read on Instagram that, no, it's at the time that you see the number is the time that you should be paying attention to the thought that you're having. It's instant, it's like an epiphany, it's like instantaneous, and you just become aware and it is locked in. The Akashic Records is always recording and the binary codes are always going. So if you want to represent the number 3, for example, in binary, you would do 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, and that represents 3. So binary is one of the ways that confirm that our existence is based on numbers. So binary is the idea that the numbers 0 and 1 can encompass or create everything. Let's start from 0 to 9. In the beginning, before there was anything, there was a void of just nothingness. And that void is represented by 0, which is a sphere. And within that sphere of nothingness, absolute nothingness, it's a vacuum. Within that sphere is the divine potential to create. And out of that sphere one day, their spirit needed to evolve and expand. And it did this by creating light. Sound was the first, sound is what created light because it's a higher frequency than visible light. So 0 is the void, and out of 0 comes the number 1. 1 is the first fragmentation of light from source. It is also source in and of itself. It represents beginnings, it represents unity. So you are one with spirit when you see the number 1. 2 is when 1 becomes masculine and feminine. When duality creates a spectrum of everything in between. So between the two poles, there's everything. When spirit becomes aware of itself, so self-awareness, reflection, 2. Is the number of change and flow. It also represents the Trinity, so mother, father, and child. So it represents the moon, the sun, and the earth. It also represents the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit from a Gnostic perspective. 3 is related to the masters as well. A lot of times it means that they're present or watching you and the situation that, or the thought that you're having. The number 4 represents stability, foundation, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 elements of ether. So ether is the element of spirit, it is the movement part behind these elements. And the physical manifestation of ether are the 4 elements as fire, water, earth, air. Also, like a table stands on 4 legs. You have like a solid base and foundation. And also the chakras. The 4th chakra is the heart, is the bridger of the lower 3 with the upper 3 spiritual chakras. Number 5. 5 represents change. It represents after you have the foundation, you're moving into the next step. It's about building upon what you already have. And it's also, 5 is also standing at the doorway of new beginnings. It's different from 1, because 1 is about the bigger cycle, whereas 5 is a cycle within this, it's like a smaller cycle within the one that the number 1 started. So the number 6, if you think about the number 6, it is spiraling from the top and it spirals into the bottom. So it represents humans. It represents how our form came into place. We're mostly comprised of the carbon atom, 6 protons, neutrons, and electrons. So the number 6 represents the incarnation into the lower plane. It represents the pathway that our energy flowed in order to be manifested in physical form. So the number 6 is under 7. It's kind of funny that a lot of people actually are afraid of a number sequence, right? So 666 is mentioned in the Bible as the mark of the beast. The mind, actually, the devil, the shadow that is an aspect of our human existence. The reason why it is represented by 666 is because 6 is the number below 7. 7 is the number of God. Lucifer was a fallen angel of God. He wanted to overpower the Prime Creator, which is not possible because Prime Creator is what created him. So within us, he represents the mind who tries to think of ways to overpower the spiritual. But ultimately, we are comprised of the spiritual more than the carbon, right? Physical mind ideas. 666 represents the Lucifer rebellion, which is a metaphor or a symbol for how the mind can think that if there are more of them, so they put 3 of them together, it might be able to overpower the 7. So even if the 6s think that they are combined greater than 7 because it reduces or equates to 9. 9 is higher than 7, but the only reason why the 9 is able to be held together is because of the 3 6s. So if you go to the source of comparing the origins of the number 666 versus 7, it's clear that no matter what the 6s try to do or rebel, 7 is always higher. So symbolize the shadow aspect within ourselves. Maybe you are being asked to look at those aspects more clearly when you see those numbers. 7 represents divinity, represents Prime Creator, because in the beginning there are 7 days for creation to be complete in order for light to be manifested in physical form. 7 is also a higher representation of the oneness. So 1 represents everything in the universe, whereas 7 represents more so the higher spiritual realms. The number 8 represents abundance. It is about the heart bridging the lower chakras with the upper spiritual ones, and it creates like an infinity loop that represents the eternal movement of spirit in the higher realms, because 8 is higher than 7. It represents the union of both poles, the feminine and the masculine, the north and the south. Because in the spiritual realms, you realize like everything is the same when you're moving all the time. And that's the truth. The truth is that everything changes, nothing is stagnant. 9 represents ascending. It represents the completion of an ascension cycle usually. So what I mean by that is that if you look at the number 9, it starts in the bottom and spirals back up into the top. This is the direction that we as a collective are moving if you choose to be on the path of ascension. So it is a choice. It is what you are focused on every day. It is not about thinking that you're going to get there if other people do the work, because you have to be aligned yourself with the spiritual by clearing the heart space and becoming united within yourself in order to ascend. 0 would be the end, because it's returning back to where it came from. So 1111 specifically represents a doorway. If you look at 1111, it looks like a portal. It also reduces to 4. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4, which represents that the 4 elements have brought it into physical existence. So Nikola Tesla talks about the significance of the numbers 3, 6, and 9. Tesla was a great inventor. He was definitely a starseed genius who was straight channeling. So the numbers 3, 6, and 9, they apply to everything in the universe. And ultimately it's up to you how fast you want to ascend, and they are laughing at us for being in this matrix, but at the same time they are trying to help us ascend. Free will plays a picture, but the more present you are with yourself and everything that you are feeling, and realizing that the physical is preparing to split with the spiritual. So up or down, you choose. The only way up is through the spiritual self. We are getting crazy ascension symptoms and upgrades and downloads right now. These are coming from above, and it may be super intense. We're letting go of old patterns that maybe you used to be able to do it 2 years ago and be perfectly fine, but you do it one time now and it throws the whole week off. So I know we've all been going through it. Ascension symptoms are real. You are not who you used to be, and things are speeding up super fast. It is time for you to step into your potential. It is time for you to be focused on the spiritual, to clear the mind and no longer be afraid of your true divinity, to unfold through your talents. So please look within, please focus on acknowledging your emotions, clearing the mind, or observing the mind more, and focusing on the spiritual, because that is the Holy Grail. That is what is going to be saving us when it is time. So Jesus isn't coming to save you. I'm just saying, you have to save yourself by aligning with the spiritual, and it is not found through physical things. The physical is limited in knowing what truly there is. It is not found in dogma or religion. It is found in tuning into the truth of your core. So breathe, do some yoga, open the channels, connect with your emotions, realize it is moving all the time, allow it to move, and become connected, one with the source.